Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So I had an incident last night. This is an introduction. I completed the voiceover and I said what I wanted to say here. But I had an incident last night and it prompted me to make a video that's been on my mind for a while to make. Um, and I'm going to explain it again because I already made the video, but I left something out. But it was a video that, like, say I died or something, that there would be this video that would be put up for my viewers, for all of you, the ones that are connected to me and this channel, and would feel something and would need some closure. And the idea came from, this is the part I left out, the third master of the Sajmark system, Master Chargy, and he put two voiceovers out. He was bedridden. He had um, various types of cancer, including bone cancer and all these other ailments. He was in his late 80s, um, and he had all these issues, health issues. And, he was not able to really see people so much and these things. He was just, his health was declining fast. But he put out a couple of messages. And one of them, he just gave everyone his blessings and said he would be with everybody. And then there was these Whispers of the Brighter World message that came out. So some of you guys know what I'm talking about with that. I'm not going to explain that here. When his soul communicated through this French woman, this medium. Um, and so it had a profound effect on me. I was there when they played it, like right after he died. And I've heard it. It's on the internet somewhere. Maybe I'll put it in my Journey series video if I can find it. Because I'm going to put this whole video in that as well, my 105th Journey series video. But it had just a profound effect. And, I have the opportunity here to put something out here for all of you and, my family members and people like that. Because there's always things that people wish they would have said, or, things that were never communicated, and there's not the right time, and, or it wouldn't be heard because there's no finality in it, right? But it's been on my mind to say this, and, something happened last night. There's always a little health issue, which I, believe is a back spasm, and I'll get into that in a bit, but there's a whole thing that I'll talk about here. But then the idea came to just put it out there now, because why wait, right? It's there. And if something, happens to me, it may be 10 years from now, 15, whatever. This stuff's out there. I've said what I needed to say. And so there it is. And so, or if I just stop making videos or whatever, there's this thing, right? The internet disappears and people can have this or whatever it is. So with that being said, here's the video. Greetings, brothers and sisters. So I had a little bit of a possible brush with death and or back spasm last night. And I had another one like a week ago. So I wanted to talk about that. I've wanted to make a video in case I died. And I don't know why, I thought that would be important for people here to have some closure. And I was going to, leave some sort of either video or, instructions for my wife to put it up. I was just going to make a video and then keep it unlisted and then have my wife make it public if I died or something like that. So people would, there would be no way people would kind of figure out what happened to me if I just disappeared and stopped making content. Like I just wouldn't go away. There's a YouTuber just went away and people were like kind of freaked out or whatever. And I wouldn't do that if I just, if I stopped, I would, give a reason or say what was going on or, whatever. But, people just disappear, they get depressed or they get whatever, which wouldn't happen to me. So if I disappeared, it would be like death or something like it, right, where I'd be incapacitated. But if that should happen and there's no, whatever closure or whatever it is, this will be that video that people can go back to. Because I thought, why keep it unlisted why not just say the things I had to say here and then, make it public, and then people can find this video later based on the title. So the title will be if I suddenly drop like a fly, or slash and or i.e. not and or i.e. Die suddenly. This is the video. This is my goodbye video. Um, it occurred to me to just make something here. And I'm also going to include this in, I think it's the 105th edition of the Journey series, and people can then go out and leave links to it or whatever. Make it be known in the truth community so people can have some closure or whatever, who have some attachment to the content I make here, and feel some attachment to me or whatever. It's just as a resolution of it's things, bringing things to an end. So this is for a couple of reasons, just physically. Like, I feel great. I've been, I walked 8 miles yesterday, based on my phone. I didn't have my phone on me all day, so probably more. My wife and I went for a couple of walks, and I did a lot of work on the farm. It was, we're going to have rain, and it was almost like impending rain yesterday. Just trying to get everything done there. So that all happened. This is Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. I might not release this till later. But yeah, it's there. The date. And so I've had these issues. The first one, there's 2 things health-wise. I want to talk about the COVID stuff, and then this other thing. And so I think it was in 2011 or 10 or 11, I woke up and I felt like I had a heart attack. And based in, there was some tension in my left arm, and just my whole back was like on fire. And, I kind of panicked because it was just, it was a weird feeling. And my ex and I were sleeping in separate beds because she had insomnia. So I called her and said, tell everyone I love them, the kids, these kind of things, right? And then I drank some cayenne pepper, which there's a guy, and I think I'm going to call this guy, I never have, Kyle Sellers. He has this stuff about cayenne pepper, and I don't know if it comes from him, but he has a video about how it helps prevent you from going into shock. And I'm not recommending anything here. Like, I don't know if it works or not. But it also, somewhere else where it talks about it, can help equalize a person's system and depressurize it when someone's having a heart attack. And I again don't know whether it's true, but I drank a lot of cayenne. And then that went through me, and my stomach was on fire. And it took away from the idea there was a heart attack. It like rushed right through me. Like, it was like in my, intestines burning. Like, it just, I could feel it going through my body. And then I was like, maybe that wasn't a heart attack, right? So I looked it on the internet, and there was this, intercostal rib thing, which sounded like it was that. And then like a back spasm. And I had another back spasm like it soon after. Like, I was like, that is a heart attack. That's like a back spasm. My whole back would just tighten up across the top of my back, and it would go into my arms. But it was, there's all these things you can look up that people think are heart attacks, and then people have heart attacks and don't know it, right? And so, so there's all that. And so I've had these things happen a few times, and I've always felt like it's been some sort of a back spasm. And then I didn't care about it. I was relaxed because, it was different when you think it's a back spasm than when you think it's a heart attack. Then you have your mind does whatever it does with your body and creates, some sense of panic or whatever. And so I've had a bunch of them. So I've either had multiple heart attacks, or it's just a back spasm of some kind or another. Something, it feels almost more muscular skeletal than something to do with the heart. But also, my wife was saying that you don't feel anything in your heart in terms of nerve endings. And so oftentimes when people have heart problems, it's, it manifests in pain in something around your heart. And once in a while I feel something in my left armpit area and some tightness there. I have some issues since COVID. It wasn't really anything since COVID. I mean, it was just the back spasms. And I should also say that I had three grandparents that lived into their 90s. One lived to 100. And then my fourth grandparent, I always talk about my maternal grandfather, who was in two world wars and with firemen. They had all those chemical weapons in the First World War. He volunteered when he was 15. He was like an action hero. Played football without a helmet back for $10 a game in Chicago. And, he was the person who, he was a fireman and he worked with, glue, and he smoked. He died of lung cancer. And when he was 80 something, like he was like 80. And he would have probably outlived the rest of them had he been a little bit more healthy in his lifestyle. So, my parents both lived into their 90s, and my brothers and sisters, for years people were always like thinking they're younger than they are. My family, we look like 10 years younger than we actually are, more or whatever. So, longevity is in my genetic line, and there's no heart issues, no heart disease. It's not something that is prevalent in my family, right? And of course, I do the Sajmarg meditation. So there's that. It's meditation on the heart, and it's great for the heart, like it just is. And there's very few people who die of like heart attacks or of heart issues related to the system, because it's, there's just the flow of energy there. So there's that part of it. But I've had some irregular heartbeats and some weird stuff with COVID. There's this way to reset your vagus nerve, or whatever it's pronounced. And I just started getting videos on that for some reason. I was doing that for headaches, and and I felt like when I did that, the irregular heartbeat went away. Like I think there's something that glitches out your system with the COVID stuff. I had COVID 3 times, 3 different forms, and it's what I believe to be a biological weapon, and it's messing with people's hearts. And people always want to blame the big V, but I think they're the same thing. Just one's more of a pinpointed dose. They've released this stuff, whatever the COVID is, and there's been heart issues and vascular issues for people, and I definitely had some, blowback because of that. And my son had like, when we got sick, I think with the third time, he got sick for one day, and he's younger, 21, 20 or whatever when it happened. And last winter, and he said he had a regular heartbeat. And so there's that. And then I had a weird thing because I took too much niacin, which I was taking for the COVID, and that, I had kind of my heart spat. It was weird what I had. Really irregular heartbeat for a while. I was up in the middle of the night dealing with that. And so there's been some heart stuff for me, unfortunately. But I've done a lot of things for it, which has been all these different herbs and things like this. But I went off caffeine altogether. I haven't been having caffeine. I had caffeine for years in the form of chai, and then once in a while I eat a piece of chocolate in the afternoon to help me with my energy level. And like I eat a little piece of chocolate. Like I get I like this firecracker chocolate with cayenne pepper, or hot peppers in it, and it had pop rocks. And I really enjoyed that, like a little piece of it. And it was dark chocolate with stuff, and it just has an effect on me. Like I'm very sensitive to caffeine, just a little amount. Like I put a pinch of black. I used to put a pinch of black tea in with, I had these bags of chai Marcella from the Organic India company that makes it had tulsi in it, and I'd have 5 bags in a pinch of black tea, and I'd make about 2 weeks worth of chai. And so, it had ginger and cardamom, and I eventually switched over to stevia from whatever I put in there before. Different types of sweetener I used over the years. Little bit of not very sweet and very low in caffeine, but it was a lot for me. And I drank a cup of that, and I started cutting back on how much I drank, and it would last like a month, or whatever. And so I stopped doing both of those things. I haven't had caffeine now in like 6 months, and I felt like it's just helped me in different ways, aside from the any heart stuff, because it just would speed up my heart rate. But anyways, so like most of that's gone away, and I've been feeling really good, and my fatigue and things went away. Oh, there was a third thing. I was in the Grand Canyon, the north side of the Grand Canyon with my kids, and there's a 14-mile hike to the bottom, and I knew we wouldn't make it, but we decided to walk as far as we could. And for me, we went about 3 miles down, and we had 3 miles to come back up. This is when we returned for India. It was like 2017, 16 or 17. And we were walking back up, or I just started to be out of breath and feel horrible. It was hot there. It was like the summer, kind of, I mean, it's Arizona, and, it's hot. And there's trees and shade, but my body just glitched out. And, like, I just couldn't make it. I had to stop multiple times heading back up, and I went through all my water, and there's people with mules walking by. It was like this thing, and I didn't want to be airlifted out of there because I felt that was, I just couldn't imagine that happening, and it just took me a long time to get up. Like I had to sit down a bunch of times, and I made it back to our van eventually. It took about 2 hours to get up to the top or whatever. I think one of my viewers said that sounds like a form of dehydration. But it happened a number of times where my body would just glitch out if I did too much, exercise. And, definitely started happening a lot post-COVID. Like I would just get fatigued and just glitch out and whatever. So, again, I don't know. And I don't trust the mainstream medical community. I've been disappointed. I've had good personal doctors and experiences in certain circumstances, but mostly I just get really stressed out now if I'd had to go to a hospital or something. It would just make things worse. And I've been, doing a lot of things for my heart, taking, various supplements and, all the things. So I've been doing this. Somebody sent me this, Eastern medicine, acupuncture plus like Qigong, whatever I don't know how to pronounce it, don't care. And I shared this video here with people, and it was just involves cupping your hands and clapping, and then clapping on your inside of your elbow and then under your arm, and doing that. And I felt the energy move, and I really liked that. And I started to look up different things to do with acupuncture pressure, because I've gone to acupuncture before. It's something that I like and I use. So I've been doing that, and then that seemed to help for a while. Like I didn't stay with it, but I do it occasionally if there's any issues. So that's all the stuff, right? Like, and then I had a couple instances where it's caused me, like one last night, which I'll say in a moment. And again, I think it's a back spasm, but I'm like, what if it's not, right? What if it's, and this would mean I've had 5 or 6 heart attacks if it wasn't a back spasm, or, some of them were back. I don't know what to say. And this is not the point of I just want to get through this part, then just say what I have to say about the other stuff. So I don't know, a week ago or less, my wife and I were watching TV, and she fell asleep, and I was going to go, take the dogs out, and then, watch a little TV because I wasn't tired yet. And there was some stuff that needed to go from the washer to the dryer. I put it in the dryer, and the dryer, like, the button's not working right, and you got to hold it down, you got to push it a certain way. And I used my left hand to push it, And I was just pushing it hard. It was like an awkward angle, and it just like set off. This is why I think it's musculoskeletal. This back spasm, right? And I get them at weird times. And we did a lot of walking that day, a lot of exercise, and I was a little bit tight. Sometimes at night I just get up. It takes me a while. I get stiff or whatever, and the shooting pain went through with my left arm and like all over my back. And I may have had these spasms before. I have this thing called the psoas that I use for it's for the psoas muscle, but I use it on my back. It's got these two uh, like it's rounded plastic object that is really good for making muscles release. And sometimes I'll just like sort of it's not meant for this, but I use it to sort of like it just I use it on my back and my neck in a weird way. I couldn't explain how I do it because it's not part of the thing, but it just releases these muscles and tension in my back. I used to do a yogic stretch that helped with that, right? Whatever I think it's called the plow something, but I've gotten too fat for that. Like so, and stiff, but like just releasing the tension in my upper shoulders, which just seems to be a thing. And so I didn't really think much of it. I felt weird afterwards, but not in a way that I was like it was a back spasm, and back spasms make you feel weird. It wasn't all that bad of one. And then last night, the same thing happened. I was in bed, I was sleeping, and I reached over for I have like like a cup or like a one of these mug kind of things with water in it. And I've been putting um, grapeseed extract in it because someone had said that that's a good way to get rid of sore throats. I've had sore throats for a long time now because I talk all day on the internet, and even when I'm talking right now, it hurts a little bit because there's tension in my shoulders and my arm because I'm holding the microphone. So it still even feels tight there. But I had a really bad back spasm, like a bad one, and it didn't want to wake my wife up, um, and again, nothing in my chest. Like I didn't have really, there's a little bit maybe shortness of breath because it's a tense thing, but I learned to relax and not, make it worse than it is. And I went and I drank a little cayenne pepper just in case, and I did this so right and it released the tension, and I felt better. But then I was sitting up and I felt a little bit weird. And of course, the cayenne pepper was, it just something like that happens. And I took a 3 grams of melatonin, a little bit of melatonin, because it was helped me relax and go back to sleep. And so that could have made me that would make me feel a little bit off or weird, sleepy. And I sat there and meditated. And I was like, well, what if these are heart attacks? Like, what if there's something, or there's a more severe issue here? And I cover dropping like flies all the time, and I've had the COVID stuff, and I'm getting older. I'm going to be 59 this summer. Another weird thing about it is, like, I was born at 2:22 on a Tuesday, and it was Monday. It would have been Tuesday morning at 2. It was like in the twos. I don't know when it happened. So that was weird. So I sat and had a good meditation, and I was just thinking about it. I'm like, well, what if you just did die? And the people that care about me are my wife, my dogs. Not people, but my dogs, and you all. That's it. Like, I have that, right? The people who listen to these videos. My kids, not so much. I don't know. My one son lives with me, but we're not close, and they're going on with their own lives and whatever. And I don't have any real contact with any of my other family members. And like, my wife and I were talking, and she was like, "You're my best friend." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're my only friend," right? Like, so we just have, I don't have a big social circle, and I'm not interested in making connections with people. Like, I have enough, whatever it is, right? And so, in terms of the people that care about me, it would be through this YouTube channel. And, I thought I would say some things that, and I'm relaxed about this morning. I'm not, there was I felt like what originated the back spasm was a point right between my neck and my shoulders. It almost feels like there's a nerve there or something. It hurts even now a little bit. And, the weird part was that it hurt, like it got tense right in my biceps on both of my arms. Like it went across my back. But I felt kind of like it was, like maybe something was out or there's some kind of issue there, whatever. And I thought about it again, like, they could take an EKG or whatever. But I'm already doing, like, I've made a lot of adjustments to my lifestyle. I don't know what else I could do that would, I'm not going to take pharmaceutical medication. And then, I also, there's a lot of allergens out there. And I was sneezing. My wife and I both had, allergy, like, pollen reactions. I did some neti pots and was using some of the nasa oil. And I was cutting the lawn, and that was one of the jobs I was doing. I was just outside, and so I ended up sneezing a lot, which is something that affects your heart, like your heart stops or something when you sneeze, and no issues. Like I didn't feel anything with the sneezes, right? And I woke up sneezing later in the night because of the allergens, and so I just don't feel like it was a heart attack, but I don't know. But again, getting back to this, and there's one other thing I wanted to kick off the video with this, but I'll do it here. And we saw a bunch of baby animals recently, like little small animals. There's a ton of tadpoles in our pond like a month ago, but then recently, last week, but yesterday I was on my tractor and I was doing some work on the far side of the property, and I looked up and there was a wild turkey, and which is a rare thing for me to see. And a little adolescent wild turkey showed up. I have a video of that. I'm not going to show it here. But we called it Saturday because we saw it 3 consecutive Saturdays. It just showed up, and it looked like a small chicken, but it was like an adolescent turkey, and which is kind of cool. And it's supposed to be auspicious. I believe in like animals meaning something. The Druid animal kind of Native American tradition of animals representing things on a spiritual level. And so I looked up and the turkey wouldn't move. And so I got out my video camera. I'm going to show you the video at the end of this thing. And then just as I got my video, my phone out, not my video, my phone, I started to video it. A little baby turkey. I'm little, just like tiny. You'll see it in the video. Walked across the path that I was working on. And then there was like, I don't know, you'll see 10, 12 more of them. Some of them didn't show up on the video because I was moving the camera. But it was really, big deal. It's like a big thing for me. Also saw a snake yesterday, like either a corn snake or a pine snake or something like this. It was a dull corn snake. I wasn't sure what it was. Wasn't as vibrant as a corn snake, but it was similar pattern. And then 4 days before that, my wife and I saw 3 baby raccoons. I have a video of that. I'll show you that here when I'm done with this voiceover part. And then we saw a fawn, like a baby fawn. And there were some other things. I can't remember them all. But so there was this theme here, of spring and life and things like this, the starting of life. And so I don't know, what that significant is. But let me show you those 2 videos of the raccoons. They're cute videos. And the baby turkeys. Okay, so let's get to the main part of the video. So, I thought about this, and like everyone gets into this, like with the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, and where people are like, oh, Jeffrey Epstein didn't commit suicide, and truthers say, I'd never commit suicide, and if I die, it means somebody killed me, and there's just some guy, some anti-you-know-what, Voldemort doctor who died, But who cares? Like that just, you can't do anything about it. No one's going to avenge my death, right? I don't think I'm going to die that way. There's one more thing to say here too. I went to a Vedic astrologer, and the guy just predicted so many things, or he was accurately said all these things about my life up until that point. And then he also said, you're going to be this great teacher. And at the time, I'm like, well, what am I going to teach? Like, I don't know anything, and I don't perceive myself as that. But, this stuff's happened with the YouTube channel. And then, it's in the 2000s, 40s, 50s maybe. He indicated there'd be like some sort of big health crisis. And then, he looked like he knew when I was going to die, but didn't say anything. So there's that. And, I'm doing work here where I think my work isn't done, right? But anyways, I'm lying in bed. And the most important thing is my wife. I wouldn't want to leave her alone because, we're very compatible, and, there's a lot of, love and whatever there, right? There's just, the companionship for us in terms of, this is the person that we're going to spend the rest of our lives with, and go through the, our old age with, right? And so leaving her alone would just be sucky. Like, and I just talked to her about what happened, because I don't want to, obviously she needs to know. And I just, there's, responsibilities and work that I have to do now. Whatever I do here with the YouTube channel, building the homestead, my dogs too as well. And then, my wife. My wife first, like she's the most important. But there's, responsibility and like an agreement, a soul agreement, and, to leave her alone and having to, whatever would be, I'm not, that's not what I would want on any level. I was praying to God about it, just in case there was something going on. And like I said, I was just feeling weird about everything. I don't feel that way so much now, but I can still, I'm doing this voiceover right away, so I retain as much as the feeling and the things I thought about. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was this YouTube channel. Like, that's why I'm making this video, because there are people who come to this channel every day. They watch all my content. They're interested in, me personally or whatever. And this, there is whatever internet relationship that's there. And so I felt like, well, why wait? Make the video now, and then it's there, and you can come back and refer to it, and you can, skip the story part, whatever, and go right to the things I'm going to say now, like the things I would want to say, that would bring closure and, all those things. To any of my family members, my kids, anybody, my brother, whatever it is, that there's been, we're not, we're not in contact, right? There's been stuff that's happened. Actually, my brother was in my dreams last night. I don't bear any grudges. I mean, Dodgy and, all the different Heartfulness people and all the people, and, my ex, whatever it is, all the people that I have, like, what you would call beef with. I don't care. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not cursing anybody. I'm not, I mean, like, I just don't, like, how I felt last night, or the government, or, the way, all of it, the stuff I cover here. Like, I don't have any, like, you have my blessings, right? Like, everybody, my kids, be successful. Like, I don't wish anybody bad or ill. Like, it's not what I care about, especially, if I was to die, like, if I was murdered by the government, who cares? Like, all right, whatever. Because we know the government murders people, right? Like 60% of our governmental budget is weapons and, warfare. So, that's, I mean, not just our government, but corporations and, powerful people and whatever it is, right? And I don't have any real concern about that, but whatever. Like, if that was to happen, that's not what I would care about as a soul, a disembodied soul that leaves this body, right? Like, I don't, I would want everybody to, like, if people wanted to do something for me, like some, whatever it is, I mean, in terms of mourning or whatever, it would be to dive deeper into your spiritual, your spiritual life. It would be to get in connection with God, to do Sajmarg, the gratefulness better. To those of you doing gratefulness, there'd be a way that it would have to, there, like, that's a thing. Now there's all these people doing it, and I'm the central, communication figure and the person with probably the most knowledge. I mean, certainly the most experience with Sajmark systems. So, there's that. But I would want people to go forward spiritually, because that's all that really matters. That's the reason you're here. Your soul is chosen to incarnate in a body. And so that would be what's important to me, that you move forward spiritually. There's no reason to, I mean, certainly like people to avenge my death or any of those things. People could pray for my wife and my, whatever it is, the people who are affected by it. Just those are the things that would be important to me. Like I said to my wife, I would, my soul would be with her until, and until she goes. Like I'll just, I mean, you could move forward with your life on a spiritual level, but I, feel, just connected and would want to be there for, at least on a, disembodied soul level, and help her, in her, whatever happens with her in the future, right? In terms of her transitioning from life to death or whatever. I've had these experiences where death is there. It's brought forward into my consciousness. And we've all had experiences like this. Near misses in a car accident, right? Something like that, where you're, where like you could have, had a car accident. I have, like there's this thing when I was in India, and I would get into these rickshaws, these three-wheeled rickshaws, and they're also called tuk-tuks. And the driver would drive like a maniac. I had a number of experiences like this. And I realized at some point they loved the Fast and Furious movies, which I never really watched. I haven't watched any one of those movies in the series. I've watched little bits of it. It's unwatchable to me. And I think they think I look a little bit like Vin Diesel. I've been having people come up to me lately and say, "Are you Adam Sandler?" This has actually happened to me, which is, kind of a bummer. Like, it's weird. But the worst thing that's happened to me is Adam Sandler grew a beard, and, when people have beards, it's much easier to whatever. But I think they thought, I don't look like Vin Diesel. I don't look, very much like Adam Sandler, at least, as far as I can tell. But I think they thought I was, Vin Diesel, and they would drive like crazy, right? Because they, whatever their Fast and Furious thing was, they have a thing there. But I was in Sri Lanka, and this is where my ex would go back to America, and my mom had just passed away, and I got an inheritance check from, whatever was left of her family estate, and it would, kept my family going while we were in India until the YouTube channel took off enough to where we could make enough money to support my family. And then there was this time where I had to check, and I was going, and it was getting close to the time that banks close. And I made the mistake of telling the guy, it was a little bit of a rush. And he drove like a maniac. Like, we were sliding all the road. It was raining. And, I mean, a couple of near misses and accidents. This guy was like crazy. Like, he just drove, a three-wheeled vehicle that could easily roll, and just, a lot of accidents with the tuk-tuks. And it was on these, Sri Lanka's a little island, like a Cuba or Hawaii, that has mountains. So it's like a lot of hills. And when the bank ended up being closed anyway. But at some point I just was like, screw it. And I was so stressed out. My family was falling apart. And I put my arms up on this seat. I'm in the back seat, a seat in the middle. And I was just like, all right, well, whatever. If I die, I die. There's just this, I mean, I was just like, I was like, what's going on is so bad anyway. But I didn't. But there are these times, you have in your life I remember when I was in my like 29 or whatever, and 27, right around the time I started Sagemark. I went to the doctor and he said, um, you can have a free AIDS test, and we check. I had a thing like maybe I don't know what I was there, just for some routine thing, and I didn't go for wellness checks or whatever. The doctor said, we're just testing for AIDS. And I said, sure, go ahead, but I knew I didn't have it, like it was a low risk. But then after they did the test, I was like, what if I did have AIDS, right? Like, what if the test comes back and says I have AIDS? And I was like, and again, it didn't, and I didn't really have it, but I thought about it, like you could, and you don't know, and or something else, and then there are these times that these are some examples where I think about death, where death is there, because death is always there. You could die any moment. You can have an accident. You could have a health issue. People die of weird things. Young people die. I talked about Anne-Marie Lopez, a girl that was in my kindergarten and first grade class who got leukemia, and she died in second grade. And I was kind of weirded out by that even as a kid. But death is there waiting for us all. It's just a matter of when. It's inevitable, right? Death is, the thing that's there for everybody. And people have done all kinds of things to prevent it and keep from, it happening, but it's going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. And life is all we know. And life is like, when other people die around you, or pets or things like that, then it becomes, all right, yeah, people die, right? I remember seeing my grandfather in his casket. And my grandfather was such a vibrant person, and they put lipstick on him, and he was such a tough guy. And, I was like, there's no way he'd wear lipstick. And I looked at him like, that's not my grandfather. That's just, the shell that, the whatever. I mean, I have, I think I was 10 years old, whatever, 9, 10 years old. And I was like, that's not my grandfather. He's gone. And so, that was my first understanding of the soul animating the body. And that the soul is going to go somewhere, right? And that happens, we're going to all go somewhere, and our bodies are going to be left behind. But our bodies are all we know, and death isn't like we die. I mean, there's people who die and come back to life, but it isn't like we die all the time. Like we live all the time, and so we don't think about it, and we don't focus on it unless something makes us think about it. And you see movies all the time. People are dying and getting murdered, and it just becomes desensitized to even this idea. And so if you have a distant loved one who passed, family member or something, it doesn't affect you. But like when something affects you like that and you realize it, like, there'll be a point where I won't be here. And as I get older, it's just more prevalent. And certainly with the COVID stuff and different health issues I've had, I'm in that process and I'm just stiffening up, I'm not as physical as I used to be, right? My energies aren't there like they used to be. And when I approach a job, some days I feel better than others, but fatigue and, I have to pace myself and all these things, and it's not, I can still do a lot of things I used to do, but it's just going to be less and less as I get older, and, less and less care about physical life, less and less concern about physical, whatever. But the one thing that I can say is when you have awareness of your possible, ending, your death, these other things don't matter. Like nothing matters. Like I was sitting in bed and nothing mattered but, how this would affect my wife or whatever. And then I wasn't like, the health crisis had passed me by, like whatever happened. And like I woke up this morning and my neck hurts where there's, I think maybe there's a nerve, whatever it might be. I'm like as sure as I could be at some sort of a back spasm, but like I don't know, right? And I'm gonna put some time into. We'll see, because I've had these things happen twice or whatever. But it's those things that matter, right? The important things in your life, like you could be upset and having drama on the internet and the way people debate and do these things. And then there's all the things going on in politics and all these things that are happening in the world. And I don't really, I mean, I'm kind of just don't care about them much. I don't have emotional reactions to them for the most part. But they even matter less when you're talking about something like that. Like when there's a crisis with a loved one, or you're going to, something big happens. Then those things just, they're not important. And that's how I, feel about all that stuff. And then, to all you guys, the people who, watch my videos, the YouTube channel has had a tremendous effect on me. I mean, that's why I have some, I don't know, it's called loyalty to YouTube, but YouTube's been great for me. Like I feel really, great about YouTube. And I've gotten a lot of support in various ways from this community. Over the years, people have come and gone, but there's just been, a lot of, I guess you would say, love or whatever there, appreciation, just good things coming from YouTube and all of you. And, going through this process, I mean, somebody wrote a comment to me saying, I was talking about how people get locked into their beliefs, whether it be they're Trump lovers or Biden haters or Trump haters or, and I get these comments from people because I say something that triggers them and they get butthurt or whatever it is about their beliefs. And the person say, well, Paul, you're locked into your beliefs just like everyone else. But that's not true. Not that I'm being competitive about it because I don't care. But, the thing that happened with Dodgy, the president and current master of the Heartfulness system. Now, he was somebody that I was, I would say, almost friends with. We didn't spend a lot of time together, but, we knew each other and there was, positive kind of relationship there, and more importantly, having a successor to Master Charji and keeping Sahaj Marg alive was one of the biggest concerns I had when the first guy Charji nominated didn't take and he quit and he said he wasn't going to be the master. And even before that, because I knew what would happen to the system if the master died without a successor, because that's a living master is important to the system. And so I was very relieved when Daji Kamlesh was nominated. I thought highly of him because he was a good practitioner of the system. And I watched him become the master of the system. And I had multiple experiences on a spiritual level with it. And I had all confidence that he was the master and he would be a good master. That he would come into his own and, and I was looking forward to it and, and like I say, I had some kind of personal relationship with him, with whatever. And then he just failed, which wasn't easy for me to see for all of the reasons I've just said. And the majority of people who do Sahaj Marg practice, they maybe don't know as much as I do about how he's failed and how he's fallen, but they know enough. And they didn't, they're angry about what I'm doing, or they're hateful towards me or other people, or they're, they can't see it. This dodgy truther, there's a guy in India, he's a preceptor who sends me all kinds of stuff because I don't care about it anymore, and I don't go to the Sahaj Marg, not Sahaj Marg, I don't go to the Heartfulness YouTube channel. It's like dead to me for the most part, right? Once in a while I'll look at it for whatever reason because it's part of an ongoing story. Because this is going to be part of the Journey series here too. I'll put this whole video in the Journey thing. But anyways, he said that there was a person who commented anonymously. I couldn't find the comment, but I looked through the comment section. This guy's sort of arguing with people, and there's this debate, and they're arguing and both quoting from the teachings of Babaji. This kind of thing. Like people would argue the Bible with somebody, and this person's against this thing. The way that truthers try to wake people up, and I have no interest in that, right? But there's all these people out there that are defending Daji, and they are, attacking, they're into this stuff, right? And even this guy's wife, I met his wife when, there was this gathering that I got kicked out of when Daji's first birthday, Kamlesh's first birthday celebration, because I had a child under the age of 15, my 13-year-old son, and I've talked about this in the Journey series. Very painful thing. And we went to stay at a hotel, and there were, people there, Europeans and other people, because the ashram was not really built yet. And it was about 45 minutes from the ashram, and they were commuting. And there was an Indian couple that I had known on Facebook, and I met this woman. She's a very pleasant person. And then I, met her husband briefly. But I knew of them, and we're in contact. He sends me stuff on a daily basis, and they were getting into it in this comment section. And she came in there towards the end, and she talked about having a positive relationship with Daji. And, he was her master, right? And, and I was like, well, that must be really tense for them, right? Because, they're very close. They're, a married couple, and I think they're very, very close, a very close couple, right? And he, he's very much against what Daji's done, and she's, and I don't know, just if I looked at the comment section. But it's very divisive, right? Like family members who practice Sajmarg or practice Sajmarg for years, and some of them wake up to Daji. Like there's a few people who woke up to him. And so I'm the, exception to the rule. Like most abhyasis, most people who do my system, and this is the thing that's most important to me, are, are just in denial about Daji. And I was to some extent, right? It took me a while to see what needs to be seen. A lot of you guys could see he was like a, tool or whatever. He was just, but I mean, I'd known the other things, which you guys didn't know. Like I saw him as this, to get all this spiritual work done. But what I'm saying is this person left a comment, I did what you're unwilling to do with Trump or with whatever it is, right? Following somebody who, is bad for you or, is fallen or is leading you in the wrong direction. And I, as painful as it was, and I've done this a number of times, like I've faced the painful truth. And, with my marriage and these other things, right? Like I've gone through it and accepted reality as painful as it is. And so, that's something that I'm, good at. Like I've learned to do that, right? And, deal with the cold, hard slap of the truth. And it sucks, and people don't do that. And they come here, and I say things that are truthful, and they're living a lie, and they get upset, right? And that's, anyway, it's part of it. But, getting back to the main point here, I'm very appreciative of all you that come here regularly and give positive energy. And, very grateful because otherwise it's just me talking to myself, right? And this has been my support system. Like I said, other than my wife, I don't really have anybody in my life. And, this is my support system. And before I met my wife through this YouTube channel, which is a big part of that. And, had there not been viewers and it had not been, she never would have found it and we would have never found each other, this kind of thing, right? And so there's people that, made that possible through their support here. Keeping the YouTube channel going, people helped me financially when there was the ad apocalypse here and, these things. People, contributed when I was making almost, no money from YouTube. And, I mean, there's just a lot. And, not just the support and the fact that, like, I've grown as a person. And in the Daji years, the last 3 years particularly, where I wasn't feeling the transmission and my practice of meditation sucked. I was feeling it from the energy that came through me as a conduit to these videos. And of course, doing the Journey series, which, for the life of me, I guess I understand its appeal for people, but, so many people have watched it. Thousands of people, have watched these long Journey series videos. And so, I really, have benefited from all that. I'm grateful for YouTube, even though it's a flawed platform and I'm dealing with stuff with them. And I think I meet with a guy today. I have a phone call with some guy, the ad thing. And then, all of it, right? And so all of you that have, participated, I want to say I'm grateful for your being a part of my, I guess, internet life and helping me. There's a benefit that I've received from doing the YouTube videos. And then, of course, the gratefulness stuff and all of that, right? Being able to, help people find Saj Marg, which is, a big thing for me because it's meant so much for me. And then to help other people benefit from that. I'm always happy when people, end up doing the meditation and it works for them and it changes their life and these things, being of use to people, right? Like I've been of use to some people. I've been, I've helped them in some way, right? So for all of that, this is the closure part, that for my, end that I've been, blessed to have you all here, regardless of how much I know you or how much, we have, I have so much of a consciousness of some people more than others or whatever, but no real interpersonal relationship. I don't really talk to people. In the beginning I did, but I've only met a few people from this channel. But I'm grateful for you all, and there's, a benefit I've received from you being here, like on a spiritual level and, personal level as well. And you have all my blessings and, well wishes to succeed in your life and move forward and, do better than I did. I would like to see people go farther than, I did. Achieve more than I did, because that's the ultimate goal of any spiritual person and, this movement here on planet Earth. People, do better than their parents or their teachers or whatever it is. Go to the next level. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Ravano, definitely important for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.